Me and a lot of people absolutely adored the original Fractal North when it first came out, but it had one fatal flaw that made it less popular and less successful than it could have been. It was too small. It was released just as the 4000 series GPUs from Nvidia and the 7000 series GPUs from AMD were let out into the market, and those were massive GPUs, especially if we're talking about third-party aftermarket cards that had fancy coolers. Result, the Fractal North was quite limiting in terms of its cooling options if you were trying to build a high-end rig in it, which you most likely was because the North is a high-end premium case that costs quite a bit of money. And if you're using a high-end PC that has a high-end GPU and a high-end CPU, chances are you're also going to be using some sort of all-in-one water cooling. Now, if you were to use the AIO in the Fractal North, however, radiator mounting options and clearance was going to be a bit of a struggle. Using normal all-in-one water cooler in the front, and your GPU clearance in the original North was 300mm, which was a good 10 to 20mm too short for even the smallest of 4090s. Use a thick radiator and you can dream on using anything high-end whatsoever that has a good cooler on the GPU. As a result, if you wanted a really high-end rig in the OG Fractal North, you either had to use air cooling on the CPU or you had to do some sort of custom loop, which in my opinion is a bit of a shame. The North is a stunning PC case that looks good, is built well, and well, it's probably gonna be outshadowed by this, its new older brother. This is the North XL, and as the name implies, it's bigger and should fix those issues I just mentioned. I'm not gonna harp too much on the looks because I've just rambled on for 2 minutes about the OG Fractal North, and you probably didn't even notice this is the new North XL. It's the same thing, but bigger. They just put it in a photocopying machine and then scale it up a little bit, which I don't mind because the original North is excellent. You still get all the beautiful little details you get with the OG North. Leather tabs on the top panel that allow you to slide it off easily. Beautiful wood paneling on the front that just exudes elegance. Now, for my North review, I actually checked out the black tempered glass version. So for this review, I asked for the white mesh version just to see the differences and also just to take a look out of a little bit of a professional curiosity. So this case is bigger, and that means it can support a lot more fans, a lot more GPUs, and a bigger motherboard. This PC case can support a eATX motherboard, which means if you're building a super high-end desktop, be it for professional uses, I mean, maybe you are a video editing house or some sort of programmer that needs Threadripper CPUs, this is going to be able to handle that no problem. And if you're running a multi-GPU setup and you need to do a custom liquid cooling loop, make sure everything is cool in a 4090 build, you have plenty of radiator support now. In this case, you get 3 140mm fans included in the front, which means yes, you can support a 420mm radiator in the front. And in the top, there's a lot of radiator clearance now between the motherboard area and the top of the case, which means you can fit a thick, chunky radiator in the top right there, up to 360mm. And if you're just putting fans in the top, you can actually put 280mm fans in there if you so desire and you want more airflow. Now this is the mesh version, which means you get side airflow, and in the North XL you have the option of basically mounting 2 more fans on the side with the mesh version with this little side bracket that I'll show you. Now this side bracket can be mounted on top to maybe give more airflow to the CPU area, or below to maybe give more airflow to the GPU area. You could also use it to possibly mount a radiator, though I would expect clearance to be extremely tight. You can also mount a 120mm or 140mm fan or radiator in the rear for exhaust or whatever you want, and well, that pretty much sums it up for radiator and fan mounting options. You can put up to 9 120s in here or 8 140s in here, and that is definitely going to be plenty for most, if not all, PC builds they can fit in here. As for cooling and airflow, I have had zero issues with this whatsoever. I mean, it has 3 140mm fans in the front and mesh all around. It has no issues getting hot air out of the case, so that is really good. It also features cable management grommets for both ATX and eATX motherboards, so you don't have to be worried that you're gonna have a harder time cable managing depending on motherboard that you use. Now, in terms of power supply support, it supports full-size power supplies as expected, although that will vary depending on whether you are going to put things in the power supply shroud area. It supports up to 2 hard drives and 2 2.5-inch SSDs on the back of the motherboard, and I personally think this is actually a weak point of the North XL, because the North XL is capable of fitting a eATX motherboard and supporting high-end desktop desktop processors like Threadrippers is a PC case that has a lot of potential for corporate purchases, for office PCs, for professional situations. Paired with its absolutely stunning looks that make it look very professional and like a nice piece of furniture, it is a case that I think would fit a lot of offices and a lot of corporate workspaces and would make for a great choice for a lot of companies who are looking to build PCs who want a sleek, professional looking PC that also performs well with great airflow, great cooling, and can fit all that hardware. The thing is though, if you're doing professional PCs, there are oftentimes a lot of requests for a lot of storage, since a lot of these PCs will be used to store massive projects, massive files, or maybe used as some sort of local server. As a result, only being limited to 2 hard drives in the North XL is going to be a bit of a shame. As for other things like the build experience, this was extremely straightforward to build in. You've got a 29mm clearance in the back of the PC case for cable management, which is plenty since this case is so big. There's fan filters in the front and bottom, so all the intakes or possible intakes are filtered for minimal dust entrance, and you also get a included fan hub in the back to easily manage your fans if you don't have enough ports on your motherboard, which is good because it comes with 3 140s in the front and you might run out of fan ports if you're building a custom loop or something like that. Oh, and did I mention the GPU clearance in this case is obviously significantly better than on the North, and it completely solves all the issues with the OG North in not being able to fit 4090s and a radiator in the front. The thing is though, you don't even need to put a radiator in the front because, as I've said, you can put it in the top. GPU clearance for this is 413mm if you have no radiator in the front, and if you do, you can put a 380mm GPU, which is perfectly adequate. In terms of air cooling though, which I don't think you would do in a case like this, frankly, you can put up to a 185mm tall CPU cooler if you don't put the fan bracket for the side intakes or exhaust above the CPU. With the bracket and only fans installed, you can support up to a 150mm tower cooler. Now all that is good stuff, but I do have to mention one bad thing about this case that I am a little bit disappointed by. One of the things I love about Fractal cases is the phenomenal build quality they've had over the years. You could sit on them and they were sturdy as a rock and basically had no issues. However, with this case, I'm a little bit disappointed by the sturdiness and build quality of it. There's a bit of panel flex in the rear panel where the fans are mounted. It's not a place you would touch per se, but in older Fractal cases that I've tested, I never felt that the area was weak or thin, but with this case, you can really visibly flex it, which I'm not the biggest fan of. Also, the panels seem to be a bit more loosely fitted than on the OG North, and just not as well put together as on the original North, which I think is a shame because the North is easily one of the best built PC cases I've ever used. Now, by no means is the build quality of this case bad. It's still very sturdy and the panels and materials still feel really good. It's just that the small details that I'm used to seeing Fractal get perfect to like the absolute 100% isn't quite as perfect, which, you know, it's just not what I'm used to with Fractal. All in all though, this is still a very good PC case, though I think it might be a little big for most gamers' builds. Unless you're filling it out with a 4090 or multiple GPUs and a high-end desktop rig, or maybe even a custom water cooling loop, the North XL might be a little bit too big for most people's needs. This is a EATX supporting case, so it is rather massive and it's clearly built for people who are trying to do custom water cooling loops, really impressive intensive stuff, multi-GPU setups, or even HEDT rigs with things like Threadripper processors, and it's going to be more suited for that audience. That's not to say that if you're building a high-end PC, you can't enjoy this. It's just that your case might look a little bit empty with the glass side panel. You're just running a GPU and an AIO. But the solution then is to just get the mesh side panel so nobody can tell. I really like the mesh, by the way. It looks really good. All in all, thanks for watching. Subscribe.